Hi, what diet gives you maximum energy, health, performance, and weight balancing? Today is Wednesday, March 27th. I'm Dr. Dina, and we'll answer that question. What diet gives you maximum energy, health, performance, and weight balancing? Well, it depends. I think it was Dr. Michael Hall, who was a teacher, and he said, depends is really a word you use when you're leaking uncertainty. That's an old person's joke, you know, it depends, wearing depends. Anyway, I have talked little bits about nutrition here and there in different videos, but I've been studying nutrition since 1988, and if you go back to 2012, 2013, 14, and onwards, BC, before COVID, you'll see I did a lot of videos from my clinic talking about nutrition, genetically modified foods, and it's always been a focus of personal interest and also in my practice. My chiropractic practice had about 10,000 patients when I retired. So these bits of advice are coming from an area that I've studied over a period of many years, and also my personal feeling and how I react in my own body and what I've seen in others. But I know food is a very emotional thing for many people, right? And I have people on both sides of the spectrum. I have carnivore friends and I have vegetarian friends and everything in between, keto and fasting and all sorts of different things. And I've tried them all. I really have. I've tried every end of the spectrum. And I think what I'd like to do, and I've wrote down some notes so I can stay on point, is so if you have any questions or comments, if you could save them right till the very end, I love to hear them, and any links that you have or information. Everyone wants to share what they know about nutrition, and it's great for everybody. You know, my carnivore friend, Corey Hooter, who we did a video in Florida, in Daytona, back in 2019 on the beach, and he's a carnivore. So I was a carnivore there and for a few months, and we talked a lot about the carnivore diet. And during chiropractic college, I was a vegetarian for a while. So again, I've had many ends of the spectrum. Thank you all for being here, by the way. Teresa and Christy Ann and Kristen, thank you. So what I'm going to talk about is biology first, and then we'll move into some philosophy on diet. So first off, a herbivore, right, is an animal that eats herbs or vegetables, and they have several stomach chambers, usually a longer digestive tract. The carnivores, who eat mostly all meat, have simple digestive systems. They only have one stomach and shorter digestive system. They also have enzymes in their stomach, like protease, that breaks down protein, lipase, that breaks down fat, amylase, which breaks down carbohydrates. So this amylase enzyme is absent in some herbivores and some carnivores. Incidentally, pigs and humans both have this enzyme for breaking down carbohydrates. So carnivores are unable to break down the cell wall of plants. That's why they only eat meat. Omnivores eat plants and meat. Okay, just so we have it straight, because there's a lot of confusion about even our sex right now, right? Fundamentalists in any one area, whether it's religion or biology, apparently, there's some confusion of what's male, what's female, what's a vegetarian, what's not, what's a carnivore. So those are the definitions that we've held true for many years, okay? Omnivore eats plants and meat. Carnivores and omnivores again have a wide esophagus, or a wider esophagus, so they can, you know, swallow the meat and digest it. They have the herbivores and humans again have to chew because they have this digestive enzyme in their saliva. So the other issue that we'll look at when it comes to biology is the acid in the stomach. Now, humans, omnivores, and carnivores have a lower pH, so a higher acidity. And this is so we can digest meat. So our biological system, or our biology, has enabled us to process meat because we have these things. The herbivores who only eat plants have a higher stomach pH because they don't need to have that acid to not only break down the meat, but also any bacteria that you would ingest, or any mostly bacteria from the meat, and helps it break down. So again, carnivores, omnivores, and humans have a higher stomach acid, 1 to 2 pH, where the herbivores are 4 to 5 pH. The other thing about humans is that we have omnivore teeth. Okay, so we have these flat molars on the back for chewing, and then we have the incisors for biting, and we have the canine teeth right here for chewing meat. So we are, again, designed by the Creator to be able to eat plants and animals. So when my friend Jesse Howell says, I haven't been healthier since I've been a vegetarian, he could be right. And when my friend Corey says, I haven't been healthier since I've been a carnivore, he could be right. I mean, we're all speaking from our own personal experience. So, and I'll explain why different blood types, I've mentioned this in other videos, but I'll go into it in a little more depth in this video, why different blood types need different foods. You can't have a shotgun approach. That's okay for everybody, right? We know that. Whether it's religion or whether it's nutrition, everything is specific to that person because you have an individual frequency. You have an individual fingerprint. Not only from your biology and your genetics and your blood type, but also astrology, just when you were born, where your moon is. So as an astrologer, I help coach people through what foods might be helpful for them and at what times in the month you'd want to do a parasitic cleanse, for example, right? A full moon is a good time to do a parasitic cleanse because the parasites all go to your digestive system. But the moon represents sort of what foods are best for you. And so taking into account all these different parameters helps create a unique fingerprint for you based on your biology, your humanity, and your divinity in how you were birthed, as far as your natal print and what planets were in the sky and in what constellation at the moment you were born. So those energies are infused into you as well. So when I hear, so let me just list out some of the great researchers that I absolutely love. Natasha Campbell McBride with the GAPS diet. I read that. I did a video back in 2013, I think. You'll see it on the video. And she gives great pictures at a microvilli of your intestines and how it helps with the absorption, and talks about high glyphosate and some of the chemicals in the environment are actually damaging the gut and causing leaky gut and causing the celiac disease and the gluten intolerance. So I really love Natasha Campbell McBride. She actually, the GAPS is the diet that she recommends, and gut and psychological syndrome. So she claims that, not only Natasha, but many people, the condition of your gut determines your psychology. Many researchers show high carbohydrate diets, for example, increase inflammation and can cause schizophrenia and all sorts of other things. So the GAPS diet I'll run through. Kirsten says that when most say they believe the reason why they are better is because they cut out a process. Yes, that's exactly it, Kristen. That's exactly, great point. I love that. Yeah, when you feel better, it's usually because you're bringing attention to something, and whether it's a vegetarian diet or a carnivore diet, you're eating less processed foods, more whole foods, and that's the truth. Thank you for saying that. But Dr. Gundry talks about the lectins. He's a cardiologist. Another cardiologist, Dr. Davis wrote a book called Wheat Belly, and again, how wheat is the most genetically modified food. It's gone from 14 chromosomes to 42 chromosomes over the period of time. So wheat, corn, and soy are the most genetically modified foods. So regardless of what blood type or what's showing in your astrology chart or what you prefer to eat, those foods that are genetically modified are going to be not healthy for you. Dr. Shafi, remember him, Kristen, is the big carnivore, and he could be blood type O that needs meat. So he'll be talking a lot about that. You know, when I was back in practice, I would say I prefer the caveman diet or ancestral diet, as Dr. Bright calls it, or you know, ancestral diet, because the gatherers, the hunters, right, would you know, get their boar, and then they would eat meat for a few days, and then they would just have berries and have to snack on things until they got their next big kill, right? The hunters and gatherers. My blood type is O, and I'm more like that. And I know when I was a vegetarian, I lost a lot of muscle mass. I lost weight, but I also lost a lot of muscle. And some of the studies show in many vegetarian diets after 5 years that they actually see a decrease in the MRI on their brain in CAT scans. So most blood types can tolerate some meat. O is the blood type that requires the most meat, a high protein diet, and we'll talk about that. But Dr. Shafi is, again, Corey sent me that video too. Dr. Anthony Shafi has a great presentation about being carnivore. And then there's the books that I've read, Forks Over Knives, the China Study, Dr. Mercola I've been following since I was a chiropractor since 1996. I love Dr. Joe Mercola. He had an interesting statistic in his newsletter. Where did I put that? That Dr. Mercola says that carbs actually are very essential as you're aging, because they help you build a lean body muscle mass as your energy decreases with age. And then that helps you burn more fat and actually increases your metabolism and decreases your insulin sensitivity. So my stepsister, Tammy, who's also a bodybuilder, who just won in her age category in Daytona, Florida. So she had a particular diet when she was training that included a lot of carbs. To build muscle mass. So Dr. Mercola has suggested, right, that being in ketosis, which is what the carnivores suggest, you know, keeping your body in ketosis, actually increases your cortisol, increases your stress, and can help you gain weight. So we'll talk a little bit about that too as we go through. But the China Study, Dr. Gundry, Dr. Mercola, Prescription for Nutritional Healing was always a book that I referred to when I was in practice. So when patients would come see me as a chiropractor, we would do a scanning or screen of their physical body, but also we would talk about nutrition and lifestyle counseling, which again is just as important, I think, if we're going to heal the whole person. So that's a great resource, Prescription for Nutritional Healing. I have many different editions of that book, and I love it. Barry Groves, it talks about the biology of humans. He leans more towards carnivore, but I really think he has a good presentation. And the Blue Zones. So this was a video, a Netflix movie that I watched recently. I did a video about it, but you can also buy the book, and that is Paul, I think was his name. Was it Paul? Dan Buettner, Buettner, the Blue Zones. And he looked at different parts of the world, 5 different countries, groups of people that lived to be 100 or more, centurions. And again, it showed that, right? A moderate diet, natural whole foods from their particular culture, which is important, right? And that's why the blood type diet is so powerful. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But The Blue Zones is a great book. And a few different things, simple things that they'd recommended, that they found, actually, not recommended, that they found in these cultures that had commonalities with people that were 100 or plus, 100 years or plus. A moderate diet, they all had exercise. I love this one little village in Italy in that Blue Zone, And it was so steep, right? So all the centurions, right, would have to walk up this steep hill. So exercise is really important, not only for burning calories, but for creating energy. On my healthtruth.blog, there's an article called chlorine dioxide. It's called Oxygen, Obesity, Chlorine Dioxide, and Oceans. Not in the reverse order, actually. Oceans, so if you type in chlorine dioxide, oceans, you'll get to that article. And Dr. Clacker talks a lot about the importance of exercise for actually burning up toxins. So not only does it burn fat and glucose, carbohydrates for energy, but it helps burn toxins. So it really helps on both ends, because if you have toxins in your body, you're going to hold weight. So the exercise part is really important. HealthTruth.blog, you can look at that article. In fact, HealthTruth.blog has a lot of articles from way back years ago. There's one article called Bread as a Drug, and that if you want more information on the genetically modified breads and what it does to your brain and the sugars, you can read that. There's another article called Do Your Kids Need Yellow Suits for Breakfast? And that is because of, it talks about different foods that parents are feeding their kids, processed foods that are genetically modified. And some of the kids' foods, including baby food, has the highest concentration of glyphosate. So those articles might help you gain some perspective in genetically modified foods. Also another article titled Why Are You Waiting for Cancer? So if you type that into the search bar, and that will give you some more information on foods and nutrition in relation to cancer. So going back to the blue zone, moderate diet, exercise, friends and social, feeling a part of something. Spiritual beliefs, having a belief in a higher power, and then feeling purposeful, like you're making a difference in the world. If you weren't, why would you get up in the morning, right? So, and you know, Mrs. Bouchard was my neighbor for many years, 20 plus years, and she lived to be 104, 106. And, you know, I used to go visit her, and my husband would shovel her yard for her. And one of my visits, I said, Mrs. Bouchard, how did you live to be 104? She was at that point anyway. And she'd outlived 3 husbands, 2 kids. One of her children had a heart attack and was living with her. He was 75, and she was taking care of him. And I said, how did you live? And you know what she said? Almost the same thing as these centurions said. She said, we eat a moderate diet. I don't eat too much of anything. We cook a little meat for Raymond, was her son. I cook a little meat. I cook some vegetables. She said, I get up and go to Mass every day. So she had her circle of friends at Mass, and she would walk, even at 104, to Mass, which was a church kind of like 3 blocks over in her neighborhood. And so exercise, the friends, the higher spiritual power. And then she says, every morning when I get up, I say the rosary. And she said, I thank God to be alive. Gratitude, wanting to live, purpose, feeling purposeful in your living. So before anyone starts to slam me, every video, every post, there's always like the naysayers, you quack. Just know that this is my own personal opinion. It's actually for entertainment purposes. Take it as you will. If something's useful for you, take it. If you already have this perfect diet and you feel so vibrant and healthy in your life, ignore what I'm saying, because it may kind of upset your apple cart. But if you like what I'm saying, you can make notes. You can go back, review the video, some of the links and information and references that I've done, and you can use them. See, the strange part about this is when I was in practice, I used to do these events, nutrition events. Dine with Dr. Dina was the name of one of them, I remember. And people would pay. I know this is going to sound strange, but people would pay to hear this information, to hear my opinion on nutrition and diet and lifestyle. The problem with giving it out freely, as I'm doing right now, is that it's not appreciated. So some people will appreciate, and then it will attract, you know, the people that are somehow offended by what I'm saying. So I should go to that right now. Offense, right? Offense is really somebody's own wound, and they're projecting it outward onto you. So right now I'm doing a course, an astrology course with Astro Butterfly, which I'd highly recommend for anyone who has some astrology background, on Chiron, which is the planet of wounded healer. And it's just amazing. I've had some great insights as I've been going through about, you know, how we're born. We're all born with a certain wound. And our job in this lifetime is to learn how to overcome it. So I'll talk more about that, but I do appreciate, you know, that there's a lot of wounded people out there, and nutrition in particular, because nutrition is like the first way that we're often shown love, right? If it's our mother or our father, if we're denied nutrition, or if we're not given good foods, or if, you know, we're put on strict feeding schedules, or we're too, you know, our parents are too liberal in the feeding schedules, or, you know, we're all kind of just moving through the world. And food is often attached to emotions, because the moon, it represents our food, but it also represents our mother, our home, our hearth, and our unconscious desires. So oftentimes we can put those unconscious desires and those emotions that we've repressed and not dealt with into food. This is why it's such an emotional issue for people. So we just leave the door open for you to have your own truth and your own beliefs. And like I said, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. Salt, that's good. Kristen had done a post about this a while ago. Salt is essential for humans. Why? Because we're saltwater bodies. All our saline solution, right? All the solution in interstitial fluid in our body is actually salt, but not the table salt. This is really important. They've stripped out all the natural minerals in table salt, and that actually is that helps you retain water. I mean, that is actually a diuretic, but natural salt actually helps you retain water and retain your minerals. So Himalayan rock salt, for example, or Celtic salt or real salt, they have 84 trace minerals that our body needs. So salting your food, or even salting your water. I salt my water morning and night with a little salt and borax, because the nanotechnology, it helps disarm nanotech, which I'll remember. I'm going to make a note to talk about nanotech, because I didn't have that on my notes, but that's really important too. Okay, so let's get back to being centurions. Moderation is the key, and I've given you some resources to talk about that. David Suzuki, on that article, Oceans, Obesity and Chlorine Dioxide, you'll see a reference to an article I wrote for Optimize magazine back in 2012, and it was about the obesity epidemic. And David Suzuki coined a term called obesogens. Also was used by Paula Bailey Hamilton, who's an endocrinologist, that toxins in our environment, whether it is nanotech that we have sprayed up on our foods right now from the chemtrails, or whether it's BPAs from plastic in our foods, or whether it's plastics coming from our tea bags. I just read an article about that this morning. Our body will try to sequester these things with fat. If we can't burn it out, the natural mechanism is to burn it through exercise, burn off the toxins. But if we can't get it out of our body lays down a layer of fat around it to protect us. It's really just a life-preserving mechanism, obesity, to protect us. So part of weight balancing is not just what you're eating, but it's how you're detoxifying your body. And the borax, like the laundry detergent, or you can get boron in a supplement. Just taking a pinch and putting it in your water twice a day is really helpful for deactivating nanotech. So I've heard. I don't understand the mechanism or why it works, but I take it every day. My mother says, what's going on with you now? You're eating laundry detergent. But the nanotech is something that's in all of us, even those who haven't been injected, because of the shedding that happens in their environment, because of the contamination of our water supply and our groundwater. So we have to be mindful of that. And the boron or boric acid, I think, is one way to detox from that. Okay, so now we get to the meat and potatoes, meat and potatoes literally, of what I wanted to talk about finally, is Dr. Diamo's book, Eating Right for Your Type, or the Blood Type Diet. Now, I had this book back in 1996 when I graduated from chiropractic college, and talked to many patients about it, and did the follow that regime myself. And then, I got distracted into trying other things. There were new diets and new fads and new interests, so I wanted to test and try that. But I keep going back, for me as a blood type O positive, to that diet. And blood type A, which I'll show you. I know this is backwards right now, so I'll have to turn the phone around and show you, but it's loosely applicable, because blood type A, Patty Broussard and I did a video, and she and Clan Mother Karen did a video on Project Ascension that looked at the genome and blood types. So if you want to go more in depth in that, I will post a video below. It's a YouTube series with Patty Broussard, Project Ascension, and they go into depth on blood types and the modification that's been done to our blood types. So how can I summarize this without getting too complicated? Our H factor, so you're either O positive or O negative. The RH factor is called the rhesus monkey factor. So if you were born on the earth and grew up on the earth and you're a tribal lady or a woman or man, you generally have the positive blood types. And if you are negative, let's say your blood type has been modified throughout thousands of years, and Patty goes into more detail on that. So these are more loose categories, but for me, having native ancestry, and I'm not sure where it is, but my DNA suggests somewhere from Western Europe, so either Viking or Inuit, Beothic, I don't know, but my third great grandmother. So I think this makes sense for me to have a O positive, right, blood type, hunters and gatherers. But A types, agrarian or farmers, they cultivated the land. So A blood types need more vegetarian-based diet, okay? If you're a B blood type, you were more of a nomad, and the nomads thrive on a dairy-based diet. Type AB is sort of an enigma. They're a combination between both of those. And then type O, which I talk a lot about because that's what I am, is the hunter-gatherer. So for example, on type O, you shouldn't have any dairy, wheat, or corn. Why? Because it will bring down your energy, it will cause dis-ease in your body. Dr. Clacker has a definition of disease saying it's just lack of energy. So if you're feeding your body, and as I mentioned before, just like the herbivores and omnivores and carnivores have different biology, there's different antigens on these different blood types. So the different blood types process things differently from a cell wall, from the cell wall perspective. So this is why eating right for your type really kind of makes sense to me. And certain things, for example, if I eat chili, right, it would make me feel kind of full because I'm not supposed to have kidney beans. But if I were to substitute the kidney beans with chickpeas or navy beans or pinto beans, that would probably be something that my digestive system would be able to accommodate. So I think knowing this and just experimenting, if someone decides to experiment, do it and just let me know, because I'm always like a student of life, taking notes and making changes based on new information that comes in. I think, the saying goes, when you're green, you're growing, and when you're ripe, you rot. So I like to think I'm still growing. I've been on this journey of learning, but I'm always open to more information. But, present it in a way that's respectful and that is asking a question or asking my opinion. If you're trying to preach to me, I probably won't, respond in the same lovely manner that, you would expect. And reaching me through the blog, healthtruth.blog is the best way. Facebook, I have so many messages that get lost. I'm in different groups and it's chaotic. So if you're really trying to send me some information that you feel would be valuable or that you would like my opinion, please connect with me through the blog. That way I'll know you're serious and you're not a troll, because I have all these people too. Now I've accumulated a whole bunch of, entities that have names and no faces. So I never know who I'm talking to, if they're a real person or not. So if you're sending me a message, it would be great to give me some background. So I know you're not a spy from my chiropractic association or from the government or someone trying to nail my ass to the wall. So just say, oh, Dina, I seen your video. I really like what you had to say. I'm a so-and-so. Here's my link. Here's my website. I'm a real person. I'm not a bot. Here's a picture of myself and my kids. And I really genuinely would love your opinion. Then you're more likely to get a response from me, because I love that kind of communication. But lately I've just felt pummeled by the AI, and everything I say comes back to me in a bot message. So I've had to carve away time and make sure I'm making space for those who really matter in my life, and those are real people like you. So the blood type diet, Dr. Diamo, how would you find out what blood type you are? Well, he has that covered. So you can go on Amazon. I don't like to promote Amazon. Actually, go on Dr. Diamo's site first, because you can buy one kit. It's called an Eldon card. And what it is just a card that has 4 circles, actually, 4 blood types. And it's treated with different things. You have the whole kit to be able to prick your finger, little swabs that take the blood, and you put it on each of these different circles, and then you wait, and it gives you the instructions. You have to kind of move it around a little bit, and then you will see exactly what blood type you are. And then you can laminate that little card, and you can keep it. That's useful, I think, for knowing your blood type. What I would love to see is, I think Sammy had started this. There was a healthy blood bank where they're storing healthy blood of people that hadn't been injected and that were more careful. I think a blood business is a good idea, but rewarding the people that are giving the blood. So how can Canada, or the Red Cross works, Canadian Red Cross, is that you donate your blood to them for free. You give them your life force. I was a blood donor for many years. Also, I donated plasma. So I would go for an hour and sit, and this thing would centrifuge out the plasma to get a big blood. And they give you a cookie and a glass of juice or something, right? But what they do, what the Canadian Red Cross does, hope this video stays up, is they take your blood for free, and then they sell it to the hospitals. They sell it to the hospitals, a small percentage. The studies I've read say 70 to 80% they actually sell to pharmaceutical companies. So they know how to create, right, the exact cocktail combination, to be able to feed you back in an injection of some sort. So I would like to have a blood system in place where you can donate your blood to your family member, right? You can say, okay, I have O positive, so does my mother. I'd like to store this blood, so if she needs blood for her surgery, she gets my blood. So I'm sure of who it is and what it is, and what condition my blood is in. So I just throw that out there. I know Sammy, whose son Luke unfortunately passed away, and she feels it was connected to the blood that he'd had in the hospital at the IWK. And we were there in the room with him for 30 hours, both of us with the same blood type, that we could have given our blood instead of the blood from the blood bank, but because it wasn't policy, because this was free and the hospital had to pay for the Red Cross. Anyway, it's a whole scam, that whole blood business. But if we could turn that around and have a good blood bank, right, to store our blood. So there's many benefits to knowing your blood type, not just now to knowing what foods you might best tolerate, but also if you needed blood to know which family members are more suited to you. So for Easter, I have 5 kits ordered. One for, I know my blood type, and I know my mom knows hers and my sister, but for the other members of our family, so we can all have, our blood type. So I don't know, my family thinks I'm a little crazy. And what a great Easter gift, right? Here's your blood type, find out your blood type. Oh, my kids are gonna love that. But it's helped me because, for example, I was taking apple cider vinegar, and apple cider vinegar is not the best for someone who has a blood type O. And like coconut oil, I was taking coconut oil, swishing it. I was putting it under my eyes, take off makeup. But coconut oil, high in medium chain triglycerides, good for many people, not so good for blood type O. And then, like I mentioned, the wheat, corn, and soy are most genetically modified foods, so they're just not good for anyone. But knowing if you are going to eat grains, what grains are best for you, I think is helpful. So now, thank you all. I'll take any questions because I'm going to sign out shortly. I always watch. Oh, thank you, Derek. Thanks. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate you guys too. Thank you. And I've met Kristen in person, so I know she's a real live woman, and I know her values because we share some farmer friends. This is another thing. Okay, let's talk about this, if there's no questions, is the condition of our food. So I know vegetarians who are eating, vegetables that have been genetically modified or sprayed upon, right, by heavily by nanotech, and they're eating bread, but they're thinking they're healthy, right? But again, wheat is the most genetically modified food. And then I have carnivores who are eating the cheapest processed meat, where the animals may have been given antibiotics and may have been given toxins. So it's not just what you're eating, it's the quality of what you're eating is essential to look at. So right now, if you're not growing your own food, if you can't get a greenhouse and put cover over it so it doesn't get sprayed and grow your own food, then align yourself with a farmer. Kristen, you know who I'm speaking of, but farmers that have their own land, that take care of their own livestock, they may not be selling out in a supermarket. In fact, the best foods you won't find at a supermarket. When I go shopping, I go to Illuminate in Larry Utah in Halifax. Get some produce there. I get some produce at Sobeys that I can't get at Illuminate. And then the free range store where I get some meat. Some of the other meats, I go to another private farmer to get meat and eggs. So it's like I make my rounds on who carries what and where I can get it, and to make sure that the quality of food is there. So I think that's an important point too. Thanks for all your info. How much borax? Just a pinch, Doug, and just take a pinch with your finger. It doesn't have a strong taste. Still tastes a little soapy, but it's a good way to clean your teeth. So I'll put the recipe that I have up there for a detox bath, because this has also been really helpful for the nanotech. Tony Pantalleresco made a device called a triangle that delivers a little electromagnetic pulse into the water, and it deactivates. Now, there are contraindications. If you're someone who's had the shot, or you've already had nanotech incorporated into your cells, I think there could be problems with that. So I'm not promoting it for the average person. I'm just saying this is what I've used, and it was successful, where I've seen little nanoparticles come out through my skin. So, but even now when I'm not using it and I do the detox bath with borax, Epsom salt, and baking soda, about a half a cup to a cup of each, and soak in hot water for as long as you can. It opens up your pores and takes out the nanotech, and also brings in the natural minerals. I did this test with my mom yesterday. God bless my mom. I gotta say hi to you if you're here, Mom, watching, because whatever I recommend to her, she tries. And I said, okay, Mom, I just want to do this test with you. So I did AK, Applied Kinesiology. I'm doing a course with Dr. Sheldon Deal too, and I love that course. But it shows if I hold sugar close to her body and I move it closer and I'm testing her muscle strength, I can bring the sugar to about 1/4 of an inch from her body. She goes weak, she blows out, when the sugar's not even touching her. So to have sugar in your body or close to your body affects you. So the same with the salt. You can ingest the salt and borax, right, and have it go in your body. But soaking your body in salt and borax has been, well, salt in particular was used for many years to cure many different illnesses. My grandmother used to say, hey, if you got a sore or a problem, go soak your hand or foot or whatever it is in salt water. It was used in many healing therapies, right, before the pharmaceutical company took over the monopoly on healing. So to soak in a saltwater bath and the borax are things that you could do. So Christian said, I just Googled who sells 3D meat. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, so this is the other thing. Thanks for mentioning that. Let's look at it from a more philosophical point of view, in the way of what are the globalists promoting right now for you? What are they promoting for your optimum diet? Plant-based meats, growing meat and growing genetically modified foods in the lab. So they're already doing this. They want you to be sick, so this is what they're promoting. Lab-grown meats, plant-based meats. You go into the supermarket and there's all these plant-based meat. Like, who thinks that's healthy? It's really fooling your psychology, right? And the whole nutrition paradigm that I learned in school, right? That triangle where you know, breads and all the grains were at the bottom. That whole food pyramid is incorrect, really, right? And we have to look at that balance. So there's something else I was going to say. The balance, the food pyramid. Yeah. So thank you for the 3D meat. That's important. To avoiding, right? Things that are grown in a lab won't have the same, and the article, if you type in GMO, genetically modified foods or genetically modified organisms on my blog, healthtruth.blog, you'll see some articles that I wrote about that. But 37 countries in Europe have banned genetically modified foods. So when they genetically modify the food, it turns into like a plastic food that's void of nutrition that your body doesn't recognize. Unless, this is my new theory, it's my theory, I didn't read this anywhere, but if you've been genetically modified with the bioweapon shots, maybe you will tolerate more genetically modified food because your body won't be processing in the same way. You'll be processing as a, you know, an operating system more than, you know, a purebred human. So there could be some benefit to genetically modifying food for those who've been genetically modified. Is it beneficial to take borax in a veggie cap? You could, right? Some people don't like the taste. You could put it into a gelatin capsule and take it that way, or you can buy boron. You can buy boron at the health food store, or, you know, at your supplement store. That's another thing. You know, what's happening right now with our supplements and the laws. This was going to be a short video, but I get talking and I can't keep quiet. It's like I don't know when I'm going to be back again. But what's happening, right, in our government with the restrictions on the supplements, just know that many of the supplement companies already are now owned by the globalists, that there could be nanotech even in that. So determining and trying to create your own remedies and medicine is really empowering, where you're not dependent on anything else. You know, being self-sustaining is understanding that your body has divine health once you remove the obstacles to it. One of the obstacles, of course, is the electromagnetic energies that are out there. Right now I'm doing this video on a cord. So returning to cord technologies. My last video I did was about the smart meters on your home. Just a note about that, the smart meters, people are noticing their power bills are going up. That's because the smart meter will tag the times that you're using and will charge you accordingly. So high use times gets higher price tag. So go back and look at that video if you want information. Are you eating lettuce and tomatoes? Are they testing the kill shot in that? I'm not sure what you are meaning. Are you eating lettuce and tomatoes? So I hadn't been eating tomatoes. Safe drinking water for all. I hadn't been eating tomatoes, but this blood type diet for O positive suggests that tomatoes may be helpful. Now, I always thought that potatoes, tomatoes, and green peppers. And peppers were nightshades and were, more challenging for those who have arthritis. But according to Dr. Diemo, and I'm going to test this and I'll let you know what happens with me. It's the thing, right? I'm all testing things like the chlorine dioxide I've made into an eye drop right now. And last time I was to my ophthalmologist, just last week, he said, your eyesight's improved. And I was like, He said, are you doing anything different? Nope, not a thing. But again, I'm making up these things. So if I don't have access to the medical system, I know how to make my own medicines. I know how to heal myself and my family and my friends, right, through these things. So I don't know how I got in talking about that. But yeah, the nightshades. So for example, the O blood types, and if you go online, you'll see all sorts of things. I'd recommend visiting his website, the book. There's cookbooks. I bought the cookbook. I'm going to go deep into it for a month and just see how it affects me, if I feel better or worse or what it is. So on the O type, you can have peppers and you can have tomatoes, but you can't have white potatoes, but you can have sweet potatoes. So I'm going to try that and I'll let you know, Kristen. Any other questions? They're growing vaccines, growing the vaccine in lettuce and tomatoes. They're growing vaccines everywhere. It's in our water supply right now, too. But again, what are you using for eye drops? Oh, if you go to, Sherry, if you go to the article, Oceans Chlorine Dioxide, there's a Dr. Clacker's book. And if you get that book, he will teach you how to make basically remedies for most conditions. It's just like, the cure-all using oxygen. It's just elemental oxygen. So that article, Oxygen, Chlorine Dioxide, Oceans, and Obesity, has the book that you can download a PDF and also the resources of where you can find it. And in that book, I think it might be page 125, I don't know. You look up ophthalmology under O in the contact and you'll see the information on chlorine dioxide. Why can't I give out specific health information like this here or give you specific information? Is because all this is being censored. So to protect the value, right, in the information, we bury it in layers. And then those who are really interested, those who are not calling me a quack and that, respect the knowledge and that want to know more, will dig into it, healthtruth.blog, and will find the information. Everything I study, no, not everything, but much of what I study that I want to remember myself, I put in an article with my references so I can go back if I'm thinking about something and I can find it. So I do that for myself, but I also give you free access. There's no cost. You don't even have to pay to look it up. You just go and type it in and you'll have it. So, what do you use osmosis? I do have a reverse osmosis machine that I'm using right now because I'm outside the city, but I also like the Berkeley, and I have a Berkeley. If the power should go, this is the other thing I'll mention. If the power should go down, or because the smart meters control your power, they have the ability to kind of shut things down. What I just ordered last week was a solar power generator. And you can research that online because you can use the sun's energy then, charge up this battery, and then you can use it for power, to save power, or if the power goes down. And then having a water system that you're not depending on the electricity like the Berkeley, which is gravity fed, you have water. So I figured if I got water and power and the chlorine dioxide, I can survive any Holocaust, right? This is what we have to think about ourselves and have friends, right? We create a community. So way back when 2020, right, when we started the Atlantic Common Law Assembly, we gathered a group of people, and we know where the farmers were. We know if somebody needed an oven, fixed, Sydney was the guy. We had people, right, within our community. And this, wherever you are in the world, this is the most important thing, is having other people that kind of feel and have the same values so you can source food. I know my friend Elio was talking about his group in Quebec and Ontario, and they get together and they order bulk of like organic, buckwheat, for example, and one person brings it in and then they share it for everybody else. So it's cheaper that way, and you're also getting, better quality foods. It also keeps these big businesses accountable if they know that, if they know there's competition, right? So we have to create that competition for the power company, for example, you know, and for food establishments. You know, we vote, as Tammy Cannell said, right? She was the stay-at-home mom that started the movement March Against Monsanto. She said, we have to vote with our wallet. If you're buying the crap foods that they're putting out there, you're encouraging the supply. If you don't buy it, so generally, I don't buy anything unless it's organic. If they don't have it one week, then I don't eat it. I try to mix up and rotate whatever's available, which is hard, right, in Canada and Nova Scotia, because you don't always have access to food. But creating these food co-ops, I think, would be a great idea. Chlorine dioxide is actually a combination of sodium chloride and hydrochloric acid. So you make it. You can't sell it or you get arrested or killed, literally. I have friends that are in prison in Florida. Mark Grenon and another friend, Bishop Max, you know, got disappeared really quickly because he was showing me how to make chlorine dioxide. So if you go to that article, you'll see my resources, you'll see the book, Dr. Clacker. Between all those resources, you can make it yourself. Elio's here. Oh, thank you, Elio. We order anything we want organically. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, you were the person I was talking about. Yeah, so thank you for that inspiration and all that you're doing there in your community, because this is, it's what we need now as we move forward for food. We shouldn't pay for power. Well, you don't have to, Joan. You know, you can get a solar power generator and you don't have to pay for it. Organicmatters.com, excellent online source for shelf staples. Thank you, Linda, for that resource. Thank you for posting that. Anyone else have any information? Do you eat bread at all? Sometimes I do, because I love the smell of homemade bread. It reminds me of home. Right? Why do we eat these things? Is because somehow it triggers something and goes back to our childhood. But I don't buy bread from my house, although I did buy some buckwheat, because now I'm going to be trying. And I did buy some rye. Actually, I bought a little piece of rye bread. And I was buying sourdough bread for my family and giving it away, because wheat is really, even the sourdough wheat is hard on my, I know, right? I just know it's hard on my gut. So I try not to eat too much bread. Occasionally I do. I'm not a fundamentalist in any one thing. So, you know, there it is. So I'm going to turn this around and I'll just show you if the video finishes and you still have links like Linda's Organic Source, or Elio wants to talk about his group. I love this because we're a team. You know, we're working together for the health and the benefit of our humanity. So this is, this is what I'm supposed to do, really. Now the eclipses, we just had the lunar eclipse, March 24th, 25th. That was right on my Chiron, my wound. So I had to disappear for a while, go lick my wounds. Now I'm back. Now the solar eclipse is happening on April the 6th or April the 8th. I can't remember, April the 8th. And this is a time, the solar eclipse always happens in a new moon. So after a new moon is a great time to start new projects, and it's in Aries. So it's going to create kind of a bold, brave energy where you can kind of start and just, push the reset button and start fresh with a new idea. So this is why I'm doing the video now. It may give you time to research it, to look into it, to think about it, to see if it's for you. And then if it is after the solar eclipse, or even before, but after is even better. When you start something after a solar eclipse, you're more likely to continue it and institute it as a lifestyle, right? Or a lifelong change if it happens after kind of a significant event. It's like the eclipses are like pushing the reset button. So, whatever you've done up to now, I've been focused on COVID and the whole thing. Now it's time, get rid of that, allow that to go. Dismiss that from your psychology and look at how we can start improving and how we can create health and abundance and love and joy in our humanity. So this is where we're going from here. So I'm going to turn it around just to give you the summary, but thank you again. I love you all so much. And I appreciate you. I know Elio's a real person too, and Kristen's a real person. And I love the real people that have real faces, and you know. Okay, so let me see if I can turn it around just to give you the overview here. Okay, so here's the Dr. Pito Diamo is the author. Eat Right for Your Type is the name of his book. He wrote it in 1996, so it's an old one. I know I haven't particularly talked about it here, but I have talked about it before. So blood type A, again, is more like the cultured farming, and they do well on a more vegetarian-based diet. And B is the nomads, right, that do better on dairy. So that little rectangular box you see, that is actually a milk carton. Type A and B is a mix, so they can have plants and dairy. But type O, the hunter and gatherers, they need increased animal protein. And that is my tribute to Easter with that little picture of a rabbit. So the other thing is stress. So we've all been stressed, right, through what's happening in our world at different times. That produces cortisol because it puts you in kind of a fight or flight situation. And when we're in fight or flight, our body holds weight. Why? Because it thinks we're going to need energy to run from the lion, or the, in this case, the chief medical officer in your province. So when you're stressed, Dr. Sheldon Deal recommends avoiding the CATs, which are caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, and sugar. And those are naturally the things that we gravitate to when we're stressed to kind of dull the pain. But I'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. And then, of course, the omnivore biology. We have teeth of an omnivore. We have enzymes for an omnivore. And we have a digestive tract that suggests we do better as a omnivore, eating some plants and some animals. So when Corey says, I feel better eating meat, he's right. When Jesse Howell says, I feel better eating vegetables, he's right. If you say, I feel better when I'm eating da-da-da, you know, you will know. Test it yourself. Again, don't believe a word I say. Don't believe a word I say. I'm just giving you food for thought. Ultimately, you have to figure out your own path and your own way forward. And, you know, again, in this course that I'm doing now with astrology on Chiron, which is our wounded healer, is our wounds, as Rumi says, 13th century poet, he says the wound is the place where the light enters. So if you've been injured somehow already in life, for whatever reason, physically, with the medical system, emotionally with your family and your friends, or with the political system, or whatever it is, I mean, that wound is you can transform it to make it into a gift where you can soar beyond your wildest dreams and imaginations. Or you can slip into CATs, caffeine, alcohol, and tobacco and sugar, into addictions, into your victim mentality, because that's what, you know, addiction is it's a victim, it's a you know, it's pain that goes unrecognized, and you can stay there. So what I'd like to promote now is like dismissing that, seeing where your pain is, and then understanding how we can kind of move forward. And in our diet and our health system, in our diet, it's particularly challenging because they've done a lot to our foods and continue to, like I said, generate lab things and add chemicals and process things. In Canada, if it doesn't say non-GMO, genetically modified organ, if it doesn't say non-GMO organic, then you have to assume it has poisons in it. This is just the way it works. The law works in Canada. Like I said, 37 other countries in Europe have banned GMO foods, or they have to have it labeled. So there's some countries now that won't take Canadian wheat, for example, because it's been genetically modified. But the onus is on you. It always is on you. You have the responsibility to change your health destiny based on the choices you make, where you put your money, and, you know, like Tammy Cannell says, voting with your wallet. So I love you guys. I'm going to sign out. If you have any links, please put it in. If you'd like to know more information, I will write an article eventually after I get these courses done on food. But right now there is a lot already on the blog. Bread is a drug. Kids need yellow suits to eat breakfast. Why are you waiting for cancer? There's some other things. And then Dr. Diamo, you can go to his website and he has the whole list. You can do your blood type and you can look at the list and try it. And then, you know, come back and let me know how you did with it, if you'd like. But the benefit is not only that if you're eating right for your type, that you have more energy. And Dr. Clacker had says, right, energy is equated, low energy is equated with this, it correlates to disease, high energy with health, but also your performance and weight balancing, because many of us have had, you know, an extra few pounds through COVID because our schedule has changed, but many times it's the stress, right, that we've been under, the tremendous stress that just really causes our body to kind of shut down in many ways. Write the article. Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Yeah. So all of what I say here, I'll put into an article and then I'll attach it to the video at some point, but it won't be this week because I already am. If you've seen my dining room table right now, I have books in every corner, studying so many different things. I love it. GMO project can be misleading. Does not mean organic. Thank you. That's true. And also you can have genetically modified foods if they come in from another country that can have kind of a preservative or a protective spray on it that technically can slip in and it can still have. So the best thing is thank you for mentioning that, Linda, is if you can buy foods locally from your farmer. Not only are you eating what's in season, I really believe that, you know, the Great Spirit gives us all that we need on the earth, and the Bible says that, right? In Revelations 22, the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nations. But when you're eating in your own environment, it's like the earth gives back to us what we need. Elio, my friend, just popped in here. He had shared a book with me called The Secret Life of Plants that talks about that, how the plants and the environment really help give us what we need. So eating locally not only gives you a higher quality food where it's not sitting on a truck for 3 weeks with pesticides, but you're also supporting our local economy and supporting the local farmer. So that's a good spin-off from that comment, Linda. I like what you're saying. I was sick for many years, learned much about food. Eventually, I created a website. Wonderful, right? This is it, our wound, when our pain becomes our purpose, real food for life. Thank you for sharing that, Diana. So there's another great resource. And just find what has meaning for you, but to keep your mind open and to be always curious to experience and to try new ideas. We have to stay green and growing in this environment. You know, it's not really the fittest survive, it's the most adaptable survive, kind of what's happening in our world. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I invite you to reach for the stars. Envision and achieve your personal best. And most of all, enjoy the journey. This is Dr. Dina signing out.